Hi, I'm Laurie Lane-Zucker, founder and CEO of Impact Entrepreneur, and we are here in San Francisco at the largest impact investing conference in the world, SOCAP, doing interviews with amazing attendees like Rehana, Nathoo, and welcome.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Rehana, you've been in this space for a long time, and you've been in some really key positions at some organizations that are real movers in this space. Can you describe your background a bit?
More than happy to do that. So I started off in the international development space. I started off at the UN, the Capital Development Fund, and I had an opportunity to do project finance in East Africa in the agriculture and energy sectors. And it was, I don't need to tell you, it's unbelievable working with the people that actually need the financing to grow their businesses. But it was a bit of a soul-searching experience, and I think I realized from that I'm way more motivated by the systems change work. And so I moved from there over to the Rockefeller Foundation, led the grant-making portfolio on the impact investing side until that was then transitioned into innovative finance. Moved over to Bank of New York Mellon, where I was tasked with building the firm's first fund of funds, which was an unbelievably fascinating experience that has actually helped shape my business now. That fund did not launch, and I ended up moving over to wealth management and working with high net worth individuals and families in building their impact strategies. And then most recently went in-house at the Case Foundation to help lead the impact investing portfolio there. And currently, about a year and a half ago, launched an impact investing advisory practice called Spectrum Impact. So we actually
Spectrum Impact.
Got it. Yes, Spectrum Impact. And we focus exclusively on the impact investing strategy side. We realized very quickly that if you, as an organization, don't know what you do and the change that you want to see, you end up taking an impact investing strategy that's not actually right for you. And so we do a lot of the who are you, why are you doing this, and then how do we build a strategy that fits what you want to do. Yeah.
Do you take an integrated capital or funding approach to that conversation, such as presumably many of these high net worth individuals have philanthropic practices and uses of their capital? Is that part of the conversation as well as the private capital?
It's such a brilliant question. So the folks that we work with on the family side are actually on-balance sheet fund managers. So we'll mostly work with funds that are being stood up by corporations or families. And the reason we do that, to be perfectly honest, is that we don't toil too deeply with the convincing people to do impact investing. We want to work with the folks that have already made the commitment. They just don't know how to get started. And I will say that 100% of our clients, we worked with 12 in the last year and a half, that impact investing approach sits alongside a philanthropic approach because they've got separate arms doing separate things. So we find that we don't have to do any of the beg, borrow, and steal across asset allocations. We get to say this is the venture arm, we'll build an impact approach, but you have to layer it with your philanthropy on this other side. So we don't advise on it, but by nature of only working with clients that have already allocated resources, we find that they always are doing something on the other side.
Are you advising putting capital only in funds, or are they doing direct investments?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my expertise, my background is on the fund side. So we do quite a bit of advisory on the fund-to-fund side, the direct side. We do a little bit of advisory on the public markets, but more often than not, then tip them to really great peers that we both know in the space that would do that much, much better. But what we do end up building in the strategy process is a investment product, an investment narrative, an IPS more often, and then also a hiring plan. So we sort of come at it from we could build something now, and then in 3 years your board could say to you, not doing it anymore, there's this cool new thing over here. Or we could give you the tools to institutionalize it internally. So the product creation actually only becomes one tiny piece of what we do, which is new and different for me, but very satisfying. Yeah.
Are there particular sectors and geographies that are kind of in your main wheelhouse? Is gender lens investing an important piece of your work?
Such a great question. So I would say that we're geography agnostic, although my training mostly was in East and Sub-Saharan Africa. And so there's that sort of gets into your soul and it burrows in there. And so I have a soft spot for that. Sector-wise, financial inclusion is a big deal for us, but so is gender lens investing. So two of our largest clients at the moment, one family office out in Seattle that is trying to build an impact investing approach into what they do. But the other one, and I just came from a panel right now, is the Government of Canada's Gender Lens Investment Big Bet. So they have made a $300 million investment into the Equality Fund, which is the first of its kind grant-making and gender lens multi-asset class strategy. And are in the process of raising anywhere between 1 to 200 million from the External Investment Committee. And for the Government of Canada, this is going to be a gender lens investment product that's actually going to shake foreign policy at the federal level, which has never happened before.
Oh, that's really astonishing. And where is that money going to be invested?
Yeah, so right now the products that we have on the platform, which we're building in-house, we've got a public equity strategy that's happening with the Royal Bank of Canada, one of the largest financial institutions in Canada. We've got a private debt strategy that's happening with Calvert, our friends out here that are doing unbelievable work in the private debt space. And then we have designs for a fund, actually. And it's, it's a multi-sector partnership, so it's going a little slower than I think we would want, but we are thinking about a private equity venture type fund of funds that will really celebrate emerging market managers that have embedded gender at every level. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me, what is your domain name?
Yeah. It's www.spectrum-impact.com.
Just tell me a little bit, what kind of connections are you used to making, and are you kind of seeking out at a conference like SOCAP?
Yeah, used to making is it's such a great question, because this last year and a half are the first time that I'm on my own. And so coming from the funder community, I think at conferences like this, you are very popular and even sometimes a little bit wary of not having the right funding for the right people. And I actually think in starting my own venture, and I'm sure you can totally connect with this, that there is sort of an authenticity and a coming back to your roots that is really wonderful. So I get to connect with people who really need strategy help, which is brilliant. The business itself is 100% referral based, and it really helps that there are folks in the space vetting clients and vetting you. We're better collaborators that way. And reconnecting with old friends. As an East Coaster, being out on the West Coast is kind of amazing, because you ignore your West Coast friends when they're bragging about the weather and all of that good stuff. So I think for me, it's actually coming back to a personal orientation around impact that it's hard to do when you've got sort of a funder name on your badge, to be honest. Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, I haven't really mentioned the weather here. It's late October, and we're 70s, high 70s, 80s Fahrenheit. Gorgeous. There is a fire threat. There's a fire in Sonoma Valley as of this morning, but that's the reality we're living in right now. Rehana, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure, Laurie. Thank you so much.